Imagine standing at the edge of a long and weary journey. The road behind you is littered with broken promises, missed chances, and seasons where you watched others rise while you quietly endured. You've seen people who mocked your faith find favor before your eyes. You've seen doors open for others that stayed locked for you. You've watched the undeserving sit in the very places you prayed for, and you've wondered in the quiet corners of your soul, when will it be my turn? But now, listen closely. The whisper of heaven is stirring. There's a shift in the atmosphere, a divine announcement echoing through your spirit. Get ready. It's your turn now. This is not the voice of chance or coincidence. This is the voice of God. The same God who saw you when no one else did, who counted your tears, who measured your silence, and who never once forgot the prayers you thought he didn't hear. You were not being ignored. You were being prepared. You were not being punished. You were being positioned. While you felt forgotten, God was working behind the scenes, setting the stage for your arrival. You see, God's timing is never rushed, yet never late. He moves with precision, like the turning of celestial bodies in perfect order. What felt like delay was divine alignment. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every closed door was not rejection, it was redirection. God was not saying no, he was saying not yet, because he wanted you ready for what he had ready for you. When God says it's your turn, it doesn't simply mean that you'll receive what you've been asking for. It means that the waiting has done its work. The pruning is complete. The lessons have taken root. The person who began the journey is not the same one standing at its threshold. You've been transformed in the waiting room of heaven. And now, your season of obscurity is coming to an end. The spotlight of divine purpose is turning towards you. The same people who overlooked you will soon witness your elevation. The same ones who counted you out will have no choice but to count you in. But understand this, when God says it's your turn, he is not merely rewarding your patience, he is revealing his faithfulness. This is not about your worthiness, but his promise. For every seed of faith you buried in tears, he is bringing forth a harvest of joy. For every night you spent questioning your purpose, he is about to give you a reason to rejoice. So what does it mean to get ready? It means prepare your heart for sudden favor, prepare your mind for expansion, prepare your spirit for movement. Because when God moves, he moves suddenly. You won't have time to scramble, only to step forward. What you lost will return in ways you cannot imagine. What you thought was over will begin again, stronger and more radiant than before. Now listen carefully to the truth hidden in your pain. Your delay was divine design. Had you been elevated too early, you might have mishandled what you prayed for. God was strengthening your character for the weight of your calling. You had to learn endurance before blessing could find you. You had to walk through fire so that pride would not burn you later. Every person who passed before you was part of the training, not the competition. God was letting you watch others rise, not to break your spirit, but to teach you what elevation truly costs. You were never behind. You were in development. And now, heaven is declaring that your development has reached completion. You have been tried, tested, and tempered. You've been stretched beyond comfort and refined beyond recognition. And because of that, what's coming won't break you. It will bless you. This is your turn to rise, not as who you were, but as who you've become through faith. Your name is being spoken in rooms you've never entered. Your destiny is being discussed by angels who carry instructions with your name engraved on them. You are stepping into a season where grace will outrun your efforts. The same doors that wouldn't open before will now swing wide, because the keeper of keys has turned them himself. So lift your head, silence your doubts, stand firm in your faith. You have waited long enough, and heaven has taken notice. This time you will not be passed over. This time the favor will find you. God is saying, get ready. Not because the promise is coming someday, but because it's already on its way. It's in motion. The pieces are falling into place. You don't have to chase what's meant for you. It's already looking for you. And when it finds you, it will make sense why you had to wait, why it couldn't happen sooner, why the delay was necessary. Because what's about to happen won't just change your circumstances. It will reveal the purpose behind every tear, every silence, and every lonely season. So breathe, straighten your shoulders, smile at heaven, for the same God who watched you suffer is now calling your name into destiny. Get ready, it's your turn now. There is something sacred about waiting, something the hurried soul can never understand. Waiting, in God's eyes, is not an empty pause, but a divine process. It is the unseen classroom where heaven teaches you what strength, trust, and surrender truly mean. You may have thought the delay was a sign that God had forgotten you. You may have looked around and wondered why others were being chosen, blessed, or promoted while you stood still. But my friend, what if the very silence you mistook for abandonment was actually the sound of preparation? What if your stillness was God's way of building something eternal within you? You see, waiting is not wasted time, it's invested time. Every day you spent wondering when was actually shaping who you were becoming. God never allows his children to wait without purpose. Each unanswered prayer, each unopened door, each lonely night was a stone in the foundation of the person you were destined to be. The longer he made you wait, the greater the weight of glory he was preparing you to carry, because what God gives too soon can destroy what he meant to bless. Think of a seed buried in darkness. To the impatient eye it seems forgotten beneath the soil, trapped, unseen, lifeless. But deep within, transformation is taking place. Roots are forming in silence, stability is being built in secret. Only after this hidden preparation does it break through the surface. That is what God has been doing in your life. The waiting season was never about keeping you low. It was about growing your roots deep enough to stand tall when your season of rising arrived. There were times when you begged God for acceleration, but he knew if he lifted you before you were ready, the wind of pride or the weight of responsibility would break you. So he hid you. He kept you in obscurity, not because you were forgotten, but because you were chosen for something that demanded maturity, patience, and depth. He was shaping your heart to carry the blessing without losing your humility, to receive the reward without forgetting the giver. Do you remember those moments when nothing made sense, when it felt like your prayers were echoing in an empty sky? Those were not wasted prayers. Heaven heard them all. But God answers not just according to your desire, but according to your development. He wasn't ignoring your voice. He was ensuring your heart could handle his response. The waiting was never punishment. It was mercy disguised as delay. Some of the greatest stories of faith are written in the ink of waiting. Abraham waited decades for the promise. Joseph waited in the pit and prison before the palace. David waited in fields before wearing the crown. Even Christ waited in the quiet years before his ministry began. Each of them was told by heaven, not yet. And in that pause, they were being prepared to carry the destiny that would one day change the world. So why should your waiting be any different? While you were pacing the floor, heaven was pacing with you. While you were counting the years, God was counting your tears. Every sigh, Every silent heartbreak was collected by his compassion. The waiting didn't mean you were forgotten. It meant you were being refined. You weren't waiting on God as much as God was waiting on you to become strong enough, faithful enough, and wise enough to handle what you asked for. Look back for a moment. Can you see it now? The lessons hidden in the pauses, the strength born in silence, the clarity found in stillness. Waiting stripped you of dependence on others. It taught you that favor from people can never replace timing from God. It removed the noise around you until his voice was the only one left to trust. That's not waste. That's divine efficiency. You see, the waiting season was never just about receiving something. It was about becoming someone. Someone who trusts without evidence. Someone who believes when everything looks broken. Someone who walks in faith, even when there's no visible path. God was not preparing the blessing for you. He was preparing you for the blessing. And now, as the new season begins to dawn, you'll see why it had to take so long. What once felt like stillness will reveal itself as strategy. The pain will make sense. The delays will turn to doors. The silence will echo with divine meaning. Because the God who asked you to wait is the same God who never wastes anything. Not your tears, not your prayers, not even your pain. So hold your head high. You did not miss your moment. You were molded for it. The waiting was never wasted. It was heaven's way of saying, I am not finished preparing you yet. And now, when your turn finally comes, you will step into it not as a desperate soul begging for favor, but as a refined vessel ready to carry it. That is the beauty of divine waiting. What you thought was delay was actually destiny unfolding in disguise. There are seasons in life when heaven seems to close its curtains. You look around, and the light you once walked in fades into silence. You pray, but heaven answers in whispers. You strive, but progress seems invisible. It is in these hidden seasons, when the applause stops, the crowd disappears, and the world forgets your name, that God does his deepest work. The spotlight is gone, but the sculptor's hand remains, and though no one sees it, heaven is shaping you for something far greater than you could imagine. Hidden seasons are sacred. They are God's training ground for destiny. You may not realize it, but every quiet, unseen moment carries eternal weight. God hides those he intends to use greatly, because exposure without preparation leads to destruction. When he conceals you, it's not rejection, it's refinement. He's building strength in you that can't be learned in comfort, and endurance that can't be developed in applause. He's not punishing you by withholding visibility. He's protecting you until you can handle it. Consider the life of David. Before he ever held a crown, he held a harp. Before he ever sat on a throne, he sat among sheep. The lonely fields were his hidden season. While others saw a shepherd boy, God saw a king in training. It was in solitude that David learned the language of faith, the discipline of patience, and the courage to stand before giants. The crown did not create the man, the hidden season did. So too it is with you. The isolation you despise is the incubator of greatness. God hides his strongest warriors in plain sight, shaping them in silence while the world looks elsewhere. You might be wondering why no one recognizes your potential, why your efforts seem unseen. But heaven sees what humans overlook. God is writing your story in secret ink, and when the time is right, he will unveil what he's been crafting behind the veil of obscurity. Hidden seasons are uncomfortable because they confront your dependence on validation. They strip away everything that once defined you, titles, recognition, affirmation, until only your character remains. And in that raw space, God asks, if no one sees you, will you still serve me? If no one claps for you, will you still obey? If no one praises you, will you still believe? Those questions are not cruel, they are consecrating. They separate those who want fame from those who desire purpose. You must understand that public victories are born in private battles. The unseen hours of prayer, the quiet nights of perseverance, the tears shed where no one could comfort you, these are the fires that forge unbreakable faith. God hides you to strengthen your roots. For if your roots are shallow, your success will crush you. But if your roots run deep in faith, no storm can uproot what God has planted. Sometimes God conceals you not from others, but from yourself. You see your potential and want to rush into destiny, but God knows your frame. He knows the temptations you're not yet ready to face, the pride that still needs to die, the wounds that still need to heal. So He delays exposure, not because you're unworthy, but because He loves you too much to let unhealed hands hold holy things. He allows you to stay hidden until your heart aligns with His intention. Think of the caterpillar wrapped in its cocoon, a prison to some, but a sanctuary to those who understand transformation. If you tear the cocoon too early, the butterfly dies. It needs the struggle within that darkness to develop the strength to fly. So when you find yourself in a cocoon season, don't curse it. It's the very place God is giving you wings. The hidden season is not evidence that you're forgotten. It's proof that you're being prepared. God is polishing your soul in the shadows, training you to trust His timing, not the world's applause. He's teaching you to move by faith, not recognition. And when He finally reveals you, there will be no doubt that your strength came not from the crowd, but from communion with Him. There will come a day when the curtain lifts, and what was hidden will shine with the brilliance of divine purpose. People will marvel at your strength, unaware that it was forged in solitude. They will see the glory, but not the groaning, the triumph, but not the tears. But you will know. You will remember the nights when no one saw you but God, and you will understand why He had to hide you, because what He was building in you required darkness to grow. So, do not despise the hidden season. Embrace it. Let it teach you patience, humility, and trust. Let it strip away the desire to be seen and replace it with the desire to be faithful. For one day, when heaven's timing aligns, the very silence that once surrounded you will become the backdrop for your divine unveiling. You are not buried, you are planted, and in due time the seed that lay unseen will break the surface with unstoppable strength. The hidden season was not your ending, it was your becoming. There is a clock in heaven that never ticks too fast and never drifts too slow. Its rhythm is perfect, its movement deliberate, its purpose eternal. We grow restless watching earthly hours pass, but God operates on a timeline untouched by impatience. You may think He is late, but He is never even a minute behind. When He says, "It's your turn now," it means every unseen detail has finally aligned, every obstacle removed, every heart softened, every unseen piece of destiny now in place. Divine timing is not chance, it is choreography. You see, God's delays are not denials, they are alignments. He waits until everything in creation is positioned to serve His purpose in your life. What we call waiting, He calls weaving. Like a master weaver threading gold through fabric, God ties every disappointment, detour, and delay into a pattern of meaning. We often see only tangled threads from below, but from above, heaven sees a masterpiece taking shape. The tragedy of impatience is that it makes us want to grab the thread before the design is complete. The truth is, premature blessings can become burdens. If the door opens too soon, you might step through it unprepared. If the promise comes too early, You might lose it because your spirit hasn't yet matured to sustain it. God's timing protects you from that tragedy. He holds back what you ask for until you are able to hold it without it breaking you, or you breaking it. The divine clock doesn't move according to your schedule, but according to your strength. Look at the great souls of faith. None received their promise without first enduring the test of time. Abraham waited decades for his son, and through that waiting his faith grew from curiosity to conviction. Joseph spent years in prison before the throne because his heart needed refining before his hands could hold power. Even the Messiah came in the fullness of time, not too early, not too late, but at the perfect hour decreed by heaven. If the Son of God waited for divine timing, who are we to demand immediacy? There's a reason the seasons of life are not constant. Winter does not envy spring, and autumn does not resent summer. Each has its purpose in the balance of creation. So it is with you. If God has kept you in a winter season, it's not to freeze your hope, but to deepen your roots. When the warmth of your season finally arrives, your growth will be unstoppable because your roots survive the cold. The timing of your season is not random, it's tailored to your spiritual development. Impatience is born of fear, the fear that God will forget, that opportunities will pass, that blessings will expire. But divine timing silences that fear. What is yours cannot be lost if it was written by the author of time itself. God doesn't need to rush because eternity is his canvas. What you perceive as delay is actually precision. He is aligning hearts, circumstances, and even obstacles to ensure that when your moment comes, no force in creation can hinder it. Consider this: the stars do not stumble into place. They burn with divine ardor, moving in harmony across the heavens. The same hand that holds the stars in perfect orbit is orchestrating your life. The things that seemed delayed were being divinely adjusted. You didn't miss your opportunity, it was simply not ready to meet you yet. And when it is, it will arrive so effortlessly that you'll wonder why you ever worried. There is a peace that comes when you realize that divine timing is not passive, it's purposeful. It's not that God is sitting idly by. He's working silently in dimensions you cannot see. He's softening the hearts of people you haven't met yet. He's removing the wrong influences from your path. He's clearing the noise so that when your blessing calls your name, you'll recognize its voice. When divine timing unfolds, it does not creep, it bursts forth. What took years to understand suddenly makes sense in moments. Doors that resisted you for ages swing open as if they'd been waiting for you all along. That is the signature of God's timing. When it happens swiftly, undeniably, unmistakably. So if you're standing in a season that feels delayed, do not despair. The same God who set the sun and moon in their appointed courses has not lost track of your journey. Every moment of your life is moving in rhythm with heaven's calendar. What you see as stillness is actually synchronization. When the divine clock strikes, everything changes. Your pain becomes testimony, your loss becomes wisdom, and your waiting becomes worship. Trust that clock, trust the one who set it. For when God says it's your turn now, no man, no circumstance, no power in creation can stand in the way. Divine timing is never early, never late. It is eternally right on time. Loss is one of life's most painful teachers. It enters quietly but leaves deep scars, sometimes in the form of broken dreams, sometimes as relationships that ended before their time, or opportunities that slipped through trembling fingers. You've wept over what was taken, mourned what you thought would last forever, and wondered if restoration was even possible. But here is the mystery of God. He never allows loss without preparing multiplication. When something leaves your life under His watch, it is never subtraction. It is strategy. What you lost was a seed, and in due time it shall return as a harvest beyond measure. There are moments when loss feels cruel, like a theft of purpose or a betrayal of hope. Yet, in heaven's language, loss often precedes revelation. God removes certain things not because they were evil, but because they were insufficient for where He's taking you. You prayed for elevation, but the branch that once held you couldn't bear the new weight of your destiny. So, He allowed the shaking. You mistook it for rejection, but it was preparation for replacement, something better, stronger, and divinely tailored for your growth. The Bible speaks of Job, a man who lost everything, his health, his home, his wealth, his family. To humanize, his story was tragedy, but in the unseen realm, it was transformation. Job's loss was not the end of his story, but the doorway to a double portion. When God restored him, it wasn't partial, it was multiplied. That is the rhythm of divine compensation. What is surrendered in faith always returns in abundance. You cannot outgive or outlose the God who owns eternity. So when you think of what you've lost, time, trust, friendships, seasons, understand this: nothing truly disappears in the hands of God. He gathers the fragments of your brokenness and turns them into building blocks for your future. The years you thought were wasted were years He used to plant unseen strength in your soul. The relationships that walked away created space for divine connections yet to come. The doors that closed redirected you toward paths that lead to purpose. Heaven wastes nothing, not even heartbreak. When you look back, you'll see that every loss carried a lesson that shaped your wisdom, sharpened your discernment, and refined your heart. Without those seasons of emptiness, you wouldn't have learned gratitude for fullness. Without those goodbyes, you wouldn't have discovered the God who never leaves. Loss stripped away illusion so you could see eternal truth, that what is taken from you under divine permission is destined to return multiplied in divine timing. You may not see it yet, but restoration has already begun. While you're mourning the absence, heaven is preparing the abundance. The harvest grows silently beneath the surface. God doesn't rush the process, because He's not replacing what was lost with its equal. He's replacing it with something that exceeds it. He's not returning what you had. He's restoring what you became through what you endured, and that kind of restoration is always greater. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is to release the ashes of what was and believe that beauty is still possible. God never asks you to let go without intending to fill your hands again, but He cannot multiply what you refuse to surrender. As long as you cling to what's gone, you delay what's greater. When you finally open your hands, the exchange begins, the lesser for the greater, the temporal for the eternal, the broken for the blessed. Think of a farmer watching his field after the harvest has been stripped bare. The soil looks barren, the land empty, yet beneath the surface the earth is alive. Nutrients gather, seeds germinate, and life stirs unseen. The field must appear empty before it can grow again. So too with your life. What looks like loss is simply the stage before multiplication. One day you will see it clearly. The things you lost will no longer represent pain but prophecy. You'll say, "If I hadn't lost that, I would never have found this." The people who left will fade from memory, but the peace that came in their absence will remain eternal. The opportunities that passed you by will pale in comparison to the divine appointments now approaching. Because when God restores, He doesn't return things as they were, He returns them as they should have been. The measure of divine restoration is never fair. It's overflowing. That's why Scripture says He will restore the years the locust has eaten. Not just the things, but the years, the time, the moments, the laughter, the joy. God can redeem what the enemy thought He destroyed. Every tear sown in faith becomes a seed of harvest. Every night of weeping is an investment in a morning of joy. So, take heart. Your story is not defined by what you've lost, but by what God is preparing to return. He does not simply give back what was stolen. He rewrites the ending. You are standing on the edge of divine repayment. Heaven is whispering, "Get ready, it's your turn now." And when the restoration arrives, you will understand why it took so long, why it had to hurt, and why it had to happen exactly as it did. What you lost will not only return, it will return multiplied, because when God restores, He restores gloriously, generously, and undeniably. The hand that took from you in sorrow is the same hand that will return in abundance. And when He does, you will realize that the loss was not the end of your story. It was the setup for your miracle. Preparation is the silent bridge between promise and fulfillment. It is the quiet work of heaven that no one applauds, the shaping of the soul in private before the revealing in public. Many pray for promotion, but few understand that divine elevation is not a reward for desire. It is the result of readiness. God will never place you where your character cannot keep you. Before He exalts, He equips. Before He promotes, He prepares. Every hidden struggle, every delay, every trial that demanded patience was not a setback. It was training for what's next. Think about this truth. A promise given too soon can become a burden instead of a blessing. A throne without preparation becomes a prison. And so, before God brings you into the fullness of your destiny, He tests the integrity of your foundation. It's in the seasons where nothing seems to happen that everything essential is actually happening. God is not in a hurry, because He's not just arranging your circumstances, He's arranging you. Preparation is not glamorous. It happens in silence, behind the curtain, where faith is forced to grow without applause. You don't see progress, yet heaven is molding endurance in your spirit, wisdom in your mind, and humility in your heart. You're being refined to handle what's coming, because blessings carry weight. And only those who've been strengthened by obedience can carry them without collapsing. God is not withholding promotion from you. He's protecting you from premature exposure. Look at the life of Joseph. He dreamed of leadership, of greatness, of divine purpose, yet before the dream ever materialized, he was betrayed, enslaved, and imprisoned. Every season seemed to drag him further away from his promise. But in truth, each of those seasons was preparation. Every betrayal sharpened his discernment. Every prison day refined his humility. Every delay trained his patience. And when he finally stood before Pharaoh, he didn't just interpret dreams. He carried the wisdom forged in years of divine preparation. His promotion was not sudden. It was the revelation of years of unseen growth. So too with you. What you've endured has not been random, it's been intentional. You were learning lessons your future would require. How to stay faithful when unseen, how to lead when tired, how to trust when confused, and how to obey when it hurt. You thought you were surviving, but you were actually being strengthened. You thought you were forgotten, but heaven was quietly preparing your introduction. There's a divine irony in preparation. It feels like inactivity, but it's the most active season of your life. Heaven is pruning what can't go forward with you. People fall away, opportunities dissolve, plans fail, and you wonder what went wrong. But what feels like loss is actually alignment. God removes excess weight so you can rise without hindrance. He allows doors to close because your next season demands a new atmosphere. You cannot carry yesterday's tools into tomorrow's assignment. And in this preparation, God watches not just your actions, but your attitude. Are you faithful when no one thanks you? Are you excellent when no one sees your effort? Are you obedient when the reward seems far away? Because it's not your effort that moves heaven. It's your endurance. Promotion does not come to the talented, it comes to the trustworthy. The throne belongs to those who remain faithful in the field. When your preparation is complete, your promotion will not require striving. The door will open effortlessly, because God Himself will unlock it. What you've been preparing for will suddenly call your name, and all that seemed wasted will make sense. The skills, the scars, the prayers, the patience, they were all ingredients for the season now arriving. But remember this, preparation never ends, even after promotion. Every new level requires a deeper surrender. Every victory carries new responsibility. True promotion is not just about being lifted higher, it's about being grounded deeper in faith, gratitude, and humility. God promotes those who've learned that success without surrender leads to pride, and pride always precedes a fall. When your moment comes, and it will, people will call it sudden, but you will know better. You'll know the nights of silence, the days of labor, the tears of surrender that went unseen. You'll know that promotion is never sudden. It's simply public recognition of private preparation. So, don't despise this season. Every hidden effort, every unnoticed act of obedience, every quiet moment of growth is writing your name into your destiny. Heaven is not silent because it has forgotten you. It is silent because it is perfecting you. And when the moment of unveiling arrives, you will not rise uncertain. You will rise prepared. For when God promotes, He doesn't just place you in a higher position. He places you in alignment with purpose. The waiting, the pruning, the preparation, all of it was necessary. You were being trained for territory you didn't yet know existed. And soon, what once felt like struggle will look like strategy. So lift your eyes, steady your heart, and keep doing the work no one sees. The crown you seek is already being molded. It's only waiting for your character to fit its shape. Your preparation has not been in vain. Heaven is about to turn your hidden obedience into visible elevation. And when it happens, you'll look back and whisper, "Now I understand. Every trial was training, every delay was design. My preparation unlocked my promotion." Every mountain of destiny is climbed, not in leaps of glory, but in steps of endurance. Elevation never comes without resistance, and those who wish to rise must first learn to endure. The crown is not handed to the one who runs fastest, but to the one who refuses to stop climbing when the air gets thin. The strength that sustains your future is built in the moments when your knees tremble, your spirit aches, and your faith feels faint. Yet you keep walking. Endurance is not merely the ability to wait. It is the grace to stay faithful while waiting. It is the fire that burns away weakness and reveals the gold beneath. You see, the path to elevation is rarely paved with comfort. It winds through valleys of tears and over mountains of trial. God allows these places not to destroy you, but to develop you. He could lift you instantly, but instant elevation produces fragile strength. He chooses instead to train your endurance. For what He builds slowly, He builds to last. The higher you go, the thinner the air becomes. Fewer can climb with you, and fewer still will understand the struggle it takes to ascend. There are moments when you will look around and realize you are alone, not because you've been abandoned, but because endurance has separated you from those who were never meant to go as high as you. It's in those lonely climbs that God speaks the loudest. for the mountaintop is not reached by crowds, but by the committed. Consider a sculptor chiseling stone. Each strike seems harsh, each blow unnecessary, yet with every hit the image within the marble begins to emerge. Endurance is that chisel in God's hand. Every hardship, every delay, every disappointment is a strike of divine intention. It may hurt, but it is shaping you into the reflection of His design. Without endurance, the masterpiece would remain trapped inside the marble. Even nature itself reveals this truth. Diamonds are not formed in comfort, they are born under pressure. Gold is not pure until it has been refined by fire. So too are the souls destined for greatness. The pressure you've endured was never punishment. It was proof that heaven saw something in you strong enough to survive the fire. You have been tested not to break, but to shine. When God allows trials to stretch you, He is not ignoring you. He is preparing you for elevation. Endurance teaches you to depend on Him, not on circumstances. It refines your patience and redefines your priorities. It burns away pride, strips away dependence on others, and roots your faith so deeply that no storm can uproot it. Only then, when the testing is complete, does God lift you, knowing that your character can now carry your calling. Look at the story of every great life touched by God's hand. Joseph endured years of false accusation and imprisonment before his promotion came in a single day. David endured the jealousy of Saul and the loneliness of the wilderness before his anointing became a crown. Even Christ Himself endured rejection, pain, and the cross before resurrection glory. The pattern never changes. Elevation comes after endurance. The tragedy of many is that they quit just before the dawn. They curse the valley without realizing it's the only road to the mountain. The darkest night often comes just before morning breaks, and the fiercest battle often precedes the greatest breakthrough. Your endurance is not a sign of delay, it's the announcement that elevation is near. The enemy fights hardest when heaven is about to promote you. So, when you grow weary, remember this: God sees every tear, every tired sigh, every quiet act of obedience that no one else acknowledges. He's not testing your strength, He's revealing it. He's showing you that you can withstand more than you ever imagined because He lives within you. Every time you choose to keep believing when it would be easier to give up, you build spiritual muscle that will carry you into the next season. And when the elevation finally comes, it won't be by chance. It will be the natural result of what you endured. Those who mocked you will not understand how the very pain meant to break you became the staircase that lifted you. They will see the glory, but they will not know the grind. They will admire the crown, but they will never comprehend the cross it took to wear it. Endurance transforms pain into wisdom and struggle into strength. It matures your spirit, so that when God lifts you, you no longer seek the spotlight. You seek His purpose. You don't rise to prove anything to others. You rise because the climb has taught you who you are and whose you are. So endure a little longer. You're closer than you think. The fatigue you feel is not a sign to stop. It's the final stretch before breakthrough. Heaven is preparing the stage, and your endurance is the key that unlocks its doors. The mountain you've been climbing was never meant to crush you. It was meant to crown you. Remember this truth: endurance is not wasted suffering. It's sacred preparation. It's God's way of saying, I'm almost finished refining you. Hold on. Your elevation is near. There comes a moment in every believer's journey when they must confront a humbling truth. God's blessings are not earned by perfection. They are released by promise. His faithfulness does not flow from our worthiness, but from His nature. You were never meant to climb to greatness by flawless strength, but to rise through divine mercy. When God says, "It's your turn now," He is not announcing a reward for the perfect. He is revealing the fulfillment of His word spoken over the faithful. You see, grace has always been heaven's language. It moves in ways that defy logic. It blesses the broken, exalts the overlooked, and crowns the undeserving. We often measure ourselves by our mistakes, our shortcomings, our failures, but God measures us by His covenant. His faithfulness is not dependent on our perfection. It is anchored in His promise. You may have fallen, faltered, or doubted along the way, yet He remained steady. You wandered, but He never withdrew. You questioned, but He never quit working. That is the beauty of divine faithfulness. It does not waver when you do. When God finally brings you into your season of elevation, it will not be because you checked every box or lived without flaw. It will be because His love refused to let your failures define your future. You will stand in places you once only dreamed of and realize that mercy carried you there, not merit. Every blessing, every open door, every answered prayer will whisper one truth: this is grace. Think about the prodigal son. He wasted everything, his inheritance, his reputation, his time. Yet when he returned home, expecting rejection, his father ran to him with open arms. There was no interrogation, no condemnation, only restoration. The robe, the ring, the feast, they were not rewards for righteousness, but reflections of the Father's faithfulness. So too with you, your return to purpose, your season of restoration, your moment of favor. They are all born out of God's heart, not your record. We spend so much time trying to prove ourselves worthy, working, striving, performing, hoping that our goodness might secure God's favor. But He does not bless you because of your perfection. He blesses you because of His promise. He said He would finish what He started in you. He said He would never leave nor forsake you. He said your latter days would be greater than your former. Those words are not empty. They are eternal. And when heaven decides it is your turn, even your past cannot disqualify what grace has already qualified. There were times when you should have been destroyed, but mercy shielded you. Times when doors should have closed forever, but grace reopened them. Times when your own choices could have ruined you, but God's compassion rewrote your story. He saw your weakness, and instead of rejection, He offered redemption. That's why when the blessing comes, your heart will not boast. It will bow. You'll know it wasn't you who made it happen. It was Him. Understand this. God's faithfulness is not reactionary. It's proactive. He doesn't wait to see if you deserve it. He moves because He said He would. Even when you ran out of faith, His faithfulness remained. Even when you grew silent in prayer, His promises kept speaking your name. You've been carried by a covenant you didn't earn. The very breath in your lungs is proof of that. When your moment arrives, people will wonder why it happened for you. They'll try to explain it, rationalize it, or dismiss it as luck. But deep down, you will know it was divine favor. You'll remember the nights of guilt when you thought you'd gone too far, the seasons when you felt unworthy of another chance. Yet here you stand, not because you are flawless, but because He is faithful. That is what makes this turn so powerful. It's not about what you've done, it's about what He promised. And when God decides to fulfill His word, no mistake from your past, no enemy from your present, and no fear from your future can interfere. His faithfulness is stronger than your failure. His mercy is deeper than your mess. So, release the guilt that tries to chain you to yesterday. Stop disqualifying yourself from blessings that grace already paid for. God is not blessing the version of you that had it all figured out. He's blessing the version that fell and got back up. the one that doubted but kept believing, the one that failed but didn't quit, the one that crawled through shame and still whispered, "God, I trust you." Your worthiness was never the condition of the promise. Your willingness was. All he asked was that you keep showing up, keep believing, keep walking. You've done that, and heaven has taken notice. The time for striving is over. The time for receiving has begun. So, when your blessing arrives, and it will, wear it with humility. Let your testimony be this: I did not deserve it, but God was faithful. That is the essence of divine elevation, not the reward of the righteous, but the revelation of God's unwavering love. You were never meant to prove yourself worthy of the promise. You were meant to stand as living proof that God keeps His word. And so here you are, standing on the edge of everything you prayed for, cried for, and waited for. The long night of your life is finally giving way to dawn. The silence that once haunted you is now breaking with the sound of divine movement. Heaven is stirring on your behalf. The winds of change are whispering your name. You've endured, you've grown, you've waited, and now God is saying, "Get ready, it's your turn." All that seemed delayed was never denied. Every prayer that felt unanswered was quietly shaping the timeline of your destiny. You thought you were standing still, but heaven was setting the stage. Every moment of obscurity, every heartbreak, every test was part of a divine pattern. Preparation for this very unveiling. You didn't fail. You were being formed. You weren't rejected. You were being refined. The pain you carried was never proof of abandonment. It was the echo of purpose being born in silence. Now, the author of time himself has turned the page. This chapter is no longer about waiting, it's about walking. You are not stepping into luck, you are stepping into alignment. The season of asking when has ended, and the season of now has begun. The same God who watched you weep in private will now honor you in public. The same people who doubted you will soon witness that your story was never over. It was simply unfinished. But when this turn comes, remember, it was never about your strength, your perfection, or your strategy. It was about God's faithfulness. The same hand that held you in obscurity is the one lifting you into visibility. The same grace that carried you through the storm will sustain you in the sunlight. You will not need to strive. You will only need to stand. So lift your head. The time of preparation has fulfilled its purpose. Heaven's clock has struck your appointed hour. The doors that once resisted you are now ready to open. The opportunities that once passed you by will now come searching for you. The favor that once felt distant will now rest upon your shoulders. You have waited long enough, believed long enough, endured long enough. Now it's your turn to walk in what was always promised. And when you stand in the place you once dreamed of, do not forget the wilderness that made you wise, the silence that made you strong, and the waiting that made you ready. Wear your victory with humility. Let your success be your worship. Let your story be your sermon. For this moment, this divine hour, is not simply about you rising. It is about God revealing His faithfulness through you. It is about heaven showing the world what happens when a soul refuses to give up, even when nothing makes sense. So get ready. The tears you shed are about to water your harvest. The prayers you whispered are about to echo in fulfillment. The doors you knocked on are about to swing wide. This is your appointed time, your divine unveiling. God says, get ready. It's your turn now. Step into it with faith, with gratitude, and with the quiet knowing that the same God who brought you here will carry you forward.